Hello, everybody. Welcome to the induction cooking class. Today we're using induction technology. And if you guys don't know, it uses electricity instead of gas or anything like electricity. It's a lot more efficient than your normal electric coil stove. And there's no residual heat on the surface because it uses magnetism and eddy currents to heat your pan directly. And it also reduces the indoor air pollution, so no methane inside of your home. And it's a lot easier to control the temperature. And this induction cooking class is sponsored by East Bay Community Energy. They serve the Alameda County, and they are providing you guys with a free month of an induction cooktop. If you guys live in the East Bay and you guys want to try out induction cooking for yourself, go to ebce.org/induction cooking apply to rent yours out for a whole month for free. And I will post the recipe in the chat. And then I'll pass it over to our chef, Kelvin.
Thank you, Irving. Hello, everybody. So welcome back again. So this is a part two of what we did from the last class we had. So just take us trip back, being that summer's coming up and there's going to be a lot of parties going on, a lot of events going on, friends are going to be coming over. So I want to show you guys some nice appetizers that you guys can have while your guests wait for dinner. And so last class we had some eggplant roll-ups, and so this time today we're going to be doing some zucchini corn fritters, a really nice, very flavorful appetizer that you can have that anybody loves, kids love. Doesn't matter who it is. I guarantee you they will love this recipe. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. So first things first, you guys, what we want to do is we're going to use our main ingredients, okay? Because we're going to be making a batter here. All right, so you're going to grab yourself a nice sized bowl. And then we're going to start with our main ingredient, which is going to be zucchini, okay? So what we're going to do first is, obviously these zucchinis are pretty big, and so I want to get them down to, you can either shred them with, you can either shred them, we're using a food processor or a grater. If you do not have a grater, then that's totally fine. Then what you can do is you can either just slice them up and just chop them up really thin. So I have my grater here, and I'm going to go ahead and just grate this, okay? Now, as I grate this, there's going to be a lot of liquid coming out of these, okay? And that's totally fine because that's exactly what we want. We want to grate these up. We want a lot of that liquid coming out of there because that's really going to help with our batter. So I'm going to go ahead, and for this one, I'm going to use about maybe a good 4 medium-sized ones for this one. But I think I'm probably going to do less than that, but let's see. Because we want to make sure that we get enough liquid in here to make sure that our batter, because we're not adding any liquid in there. Now, if we do need to add a little bit of liquid in there, then what I suggest you can do too, you take some plant-based milk and you can add on to it as well, just to make sure you get that consistency that you're looking for when we're looking for a batter, okay? But let's get that going. Look out quick and fast. You can get that first one done. But it's important that we also make sure that we take off both ends, okay? So as you can see here, we're taking off both ends. We're gonna go ahead and add that to my trusty compost bin. That's always important, especially if you have a green thumb, no waste, okay? And then go ahead and do my next one. Also for this recipe, we're also gonna be adding some garlic in here. We're gonna be adding, of course, our other main ingredient, which is gonna be our sweet corn. We're gonna add some oregano in here, some dried thyme, and some cumin, and just a little bit of salt and pepper, just to taste, okay? That's it, that's all. If you feel like you want to spice things up a little bit more, you can use a little bit of paprika. If you want like a little bit spicy, you can use a little bit of cayenne pepper. If you want, get creative with it. That's one thing I love about cooking is I love being able to be creative and try different things out, even though a recipe calls for certain things, if you do a lot of cooking and you end up with a lot of different spices, be creative with it, because it doesn't necessarily have to be just one style. You can be a Mediterranean one, depending on all type of ingredients that you use. Okay, all right. I'm going to go ahead and do one more zucchini, because these are pretty big. They're not medium sized. They're kind of like a little bit larger than what I wanted. but this is what I had to work with, so that's totally fine, okay? And then also with this, we're going to be making a nice herb zesty sauce with it too. All right, which is going to be called for some vegan yogurt, like a yogurt sauce. We're going to be making with that. It's kind of more like an avocado sauce. All right, because we're going to be adding some avocado to that. We're also going to add a little bit of lemon, some garlic, and give it a little bit of sweetness to it, not too much. So we're going to be also incorporating some of what I love to use a lot is some agave, okay? This recipe kind of reminds me of latkes. Only difference is we're not using onions in here, but it definitely reminds me of latkes. And it's not, instead of using potatoes, I'm using zucchini. All right, got that done. Again, as you guys know me, I like to clean up a little bit as I go because I hate cleaning up afterwards. So it's gonna give a nice little wipe down. All right, so from there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go ahead and start adding the rest of my ingredients, okay? So for the rest of my ingredients, I'm also gonna need about 1.5 cups of whole sweet corn. And it looks like my bowl is kind of big, a little small here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bigger bowl. So just to make sure I have enough batter here. I have enough space in here for my batter. Because one thing you don't want to do, especially when you be adding the other ingredients, that you don't want to overcrowd everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. If you need to have an extra bowl to clean, but that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. All right, so go ahead. We're gonna add our corn in. Beautiful. Then we're also gonna add our at least about 2 teaspoons of ground cumin. You also need about 1 teaspoon of oregano and a teaspoon of dry thyme. Have those two here together. Let's go ahead and jump that in. And then from there, you're gonna do a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. And then also too, for our batter, we also need some flour. So what I have is, you're gonna need about a 1.25 cup of chickpea flour. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and add my salt and my pepper. And I'm not gonna use too much salt because I'm also gonna salt my fritter once they get done, once they come out from frying, okay? And then also for my garlic, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mince up my garlic. You guys didn't have before, I'm gonna show you guys the for sure quick way to mince up your garlic without having to chop it over and again. As you can see, I use the back end of my knife here because it keeps my fingers safe. And I can make sure that my garlic is nice and steady, and I just smash it down. That lets me just make sure that all my garlic is really gonna be chopped up really nice and minced up really fine, okay? That way I don't have some small pieces, some big pieces. It kind of makes it a little bit more, uniform. But it's garlic, so as long as you got garlic in there, I'm happy with it. All right, then from there, I'm just gonna go ahead and give it a couple of taps over. Make sure I get all the little chunks in here to finish it off. Make sure my fingers are out of the way because I don't want any fingers in my fritters. This is the corn and zucchini fritter, not my finger fritter. Go ahead and add that in there, like so. And then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and add my flour, okay? I'm gonna mix that in. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, okay, like there's a lot of dry, not too much wet, but you gotta realize too, is as I mix this in, I'm gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes, okay? I'm gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes. What's gonna happen is all that moisture from the zucchini is going to turn this into a batter, okay? So I just wanna make sure that's all incorporated first. And then again, if you need a little bit more liquid, if you want a little bit more liquefied, that's totally fine. But you're gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes to let all that water absorb, let all that water get absorbed into that flour, okay? To create your batter. I can already see it already kind of like forming. It makes it easier to form as well too once you add to your oil. And then also too, just letting it sit as well too, with all those herbs, all those seasoning, all that seasoning and everything we put in here. It's gonna allow all that to combine together and just mesh on up, okay? Beautiful. As you can see, make sure you scrape the bottom of your bowl because sometimes some of that flour likes just hide at the bottom or underneath. But look at that. Already we got a nice little batter. You can tell that it's moisturized. It's beautiful, guys. Okay. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and put that to the side. Let that sit for about 5 minutes. And then what that does is that gives me time to work on other things. You know, I'm really big on multitasking, especially think about it. You're preparing for a gathering, you know, and you have all this stuff to do. You know, so one thing I love is I love doing recipes that allows me to, you know, let things sit for a minute and then allows me to work on other things so that I'm not all stressed out. Because then one thing you don't want to be is stressed out when you got a lot of people coming over, because then once it's not about time to get over there, then you're all disgruntled and everything, and people can totally feel your energy. All right. And so I don't want that for my guests, especially when I have people coming over. It's not their fault. Before I do that too, also I got about some green onions too. I'm gonna go ahead, actually too, I'm gonna go ahead and add some green onions in there too. I totally forgot about that, but let's go here and give them a nice little chop up with some green onions. You can also go ahead and use the whites as well, but if you do not want to use the white, that's totally fine. What you can do is you can save the white part of the green onion and grow some more. This is one of my favorite things that I love to do now. And I just take up all the greens off of the green onions and then get to this part, and I'll place this and place these parts right here into a mason jar with a little bit of water, not a lot of water, but just enough to cover the roots. And then literally by the end of the week, I have a whole nother thing of green onions. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, put that to the side as well too. So as you can see here, I have my water here. I'm just gonna go ahead and just place those right on in, you know. I try not to cut them down too low, but if I come down too low, then it's totally fine. It won't hurt, but they will grow back up again. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll put that to the side, and it's ready to go. But before we do that, let's go ahead and make sure we get those green onions in there too, because I love that flavor of green onions and some fritters. So go ahead, add that in, and it's gonna go ahead and give that a nice little mixture as well. Okay, try to get all that incorporated. Beautiful. I smell it already. You know, and a lot of my family, you know, I come from a family from the South. And so, you know, they eat a lot of meat, they eat a lot of pork, things like that. But, you know, I love trying these things out on my girlfriend. She loves these. She's like, I can't wait till I get to try what you're making today. She loves it. You totally turn somebody over to eating vegan. And then when not, they'll be so surprised that it's actually vegan. All right, so now that we got that done, let's think about something what we're gonna do next. Okay, so while that's sitting and everything, let's start getting together our zesty herb dipping sauce. Because same thing for our batter, we want to make sure that for our dipping sauce, that everything that we're gonna be incorporated in that, we want to make sure that that all those flavors combine. Okay, so what we're gonna need is you're gonna need about a cup of vegan yogurt. Now, for vegan yogurt, what I like to use is if you're near Trader Joe's, this is also good too. I like these kind of too because this is I would use this for my little snacks in the daytime. But if you can see these are organic creamy cashew cultured yogurt alternative from Trader Joe's. This is a strawberry coconut cream one, really good. I like using that one, but yeah, some ones. We got some yogurt here, some plain one. If you want to use plain, do not want to use anything that's flavored. Okay. So make sure that it's not sweet or anything like that. If you hear it crackling in the background, that's sous chef Jack's back there. You guys know him if you've been to my class before. But again, we're going to start off with my garlic. Same thing I did for the last one. I'm going to go ahead and just chop that up again with the back of my knife. and the thicker end, and then just bunch it all up. I'm gonna give it a nice little mince. And this one you can do, I want to make sure that's really nice and minced up, okay? I want that to be distributed all throughout. Beautiful. Just like so. Move that to the side there. All right. Then I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna add my yogurt. I'm try to get all that in there. Let me learn to not use any waste, okay? Nothing wasted. All right, so we got a yogurt in. Go ahead, add your garlic in there. Perfect. All right, also we're gonna need for this one is we're gonna need about 1 small avocado. I don't have a small avocado, so I got a medium-sized one. So I'm not gonna use half of that, okay? I wanna use the other half, guys. We use the other half just for this, so they can be used for plating, you know, like a little side, a little dish as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But this one's a little hard to get out of there. That's totally fine. Got my knife. And then what I'm gonna do is gonna blend this. Now, if you do not have a blender, that's totally fine. You don't have to have a blender. I like to use my emulsifier as well too. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that, but I'm gonna go ahead and make it easy for myself and just slice this up into little slices or into cube. I'm gonna go ahead and cube that up. I'm gonna make it easier for myself. And honestly, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go ahead and put it into my cup because this is what I wanna do to make sure that I get everything all blended up, okay? Have yourself a spoon. Add all that avocado in there as well. Again, if you like yours to be a little spicy, you can add a little bit of jalapeno in there, but it's kind of like up to you. You know, again, you use cayenne pepper. There we get the seed out. There. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to add some fresh herbs in there. Okay, so I'm going to do some fresh dill. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna not to get the stems in. I just want to get these little sprig dill straight in there because I'm gonna be blending this up too. So it's totally fine that you just get them all. You don't have to chop these up ahead of time because we're gonna be blending these up. Okay, my emulsifier. I can always smell the fresh herbs in here. It smells so good. If you get some stems in there, that's fine. Don't fret. Okay, it's not a big deal. We're gonna be blending this all up. I want to get a nice, good amount in there. Perfect. Extra ones I don't need. Beautiful. And then finally, what we're gonna be doing from there is we got our garlic in there. We're gonna need about a teaspoon of agave syrup. This is one of my favorite alternatives when it comes to sweetener is agave. I'm gonna need like a teaspoon of that. Go ahead and add that in. I'm gonna add a little bit more in there. Perfect. And then finally, you're gonna need zest a half of a lemon, okay? And juice and zest a half a lemon. Now, usually when I say one thing I love about anytime I see a recipe and they're telling you want to zest a lemon is I really love it is because you know when you're dealing with a lemon and you're dealing with the zest of a lemon, that's all those essential oils that you get from that get a lot of that lemon flavor. So it's just like if you're rubbing a lemon down, which I always like to do anyway to get all the juices extracted out and everything. But as you can see too, you see like a lot of that oil. That's that lemon extract over there. So I really love when a recipe tells me that, you know, zest a half a lemon. So I know I'm gonna get a nice burst of lemon flavor in this food, in this dish. So I'm gonna zest half of it because it can be very strong to you. You don't want it to overpower, okay? So make sure, you just wanna make sure that you just, you know, give it a nice little zest. You don't wanna get too much of the white pit because that's where it starts to get a little bit more bitter. You don't want that, okay? Perfect. Beautiful, look at that. It's like remoulade. Okay, nothing there. I'm gonna go ahead and just add that lemon juice in there. And as you can see, I'm holding my hand above it, just so I can catch those seeds, because you don't want to get any of those seeds in there, okay? So I use my hand as more as a catching mechanism for those seeds. Perfect. Looks like one's got away. Let's see if I can catch it. There you are. Beautiful. Gotcha. All right. Now that's done. Then we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna blend all that up. Okay. They're gonna look over to. I'm just looking over at my batter. My batter's looking really, really good right now. Okay. I'll give you guys a quick little look, so you can show you how much it turns into a batter. As you can see, it's nice and moisturized now. That's from all that liquid. That's from the zucchini. Okay. So like I told you earlier, don't worry about it. You know, you'll be totally fine without adding any liquid in there. All right. So from there, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna go ahead and blend this up. But as you guys know me, quick little cleanup first, little organization. It doesn't hurt anybody. You know, if anything, makes life a lot better when you have a nice organized surface or area to work with. Like I say, a clean surface or a clean workstation is a happy chef. All right, and this is what I mean. So I would really implore you guys to really invest in one of these. These are really, really good. I really love using these to when I make dressings, when I make sauces, when I need to really smooth things out. I really love using this instead of a blender, because sometimes a blender is so much as far as cleaning it out, especially if you're making something as small as this, you know, or you're making a dressing. It takes a lot of work to break that thing down and clean it out. So I would rather hold all that off and just use this, and it's really easy to clean because I can just take this off just like that and clean that part and wipe that down. Easy peasy, right? Get all that sauce coming together. And I guarantee you guys, I guarantee you, if you make a little bit of sauce, depends. Just really think about how many people you got coming over, because you might need to make a lot more because this stuff will go. Okay. So, and I got that done. One thing I'm really big on is taste testing. Okay, is always making sure that you're tasting your food, because you want to make sure that you know you have a nice balance of flavors. Also, too, that you add a little salt to there, you know, to enhance those flavors. Because like I tell people, is one thing that I've learned over the years is salt is not used to flavor your food; it's used to enhance all the different flavors that you put into that dish. So when we have the lemon, we have the garlic in there, we have the herbs in there. You know, I always want to make sure that I enhance all that, the avocado in there. I want to enhance that. You know, all those flavors together. So I'm gonna taste it first, and then see if I need to add a little more. If I do need to add some salt to there, I'm gonna add a little bit at a time, and then taste it again and see if I need to add some more. Okay. Go find my favorite tasting spoon here. Really good, but like I said, yes, need to add a little bit of salt. Okay, just a little bit of salt. Where is my salt? Here we go. That's it, just a little bit. And give it a nice another little blend that gets all combined. Do one more time. All right, that's looking good. See, that's all we need. And then go ahead. Make sure you get all that off, okay? I don't want to waste any of this sauce, okay? The more you waste, the less people have to taste. Ooh, bars. All right, and then from there, just go ahead and rinse this off, and you'll be good to go. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the refrigerator for right now. Let all those flavors combine together, okay? And then what's going to happen too, you can tell sometimes too when you're making a sauce like this, it start to be more liquefied. But as you put it in the refrigerator, it starts to just really combine again and solidify a little bit more. It won't be solid, but you know, if you're going to use it right away, then go ahead and use it right away. But I suggest that you give yourself some time to let this sit, let all those flavors combine together, just become one like Voltron. All right. So now we got our sauce out the way, and now we have time for, now we have a little bit more time on our hands now, because now that's setting. Now let's go back and look at our zucchini fritters, okay? So now we have our zucchini fritters ready to go. It's been over 5 minutes, so I'm pretty sure all those flavors have combined. Then we're gonna go ahead and use our induction burner to start frying this up, okay? Now for this one, you don't want to deep fry and everything. We're going to just add a little bit of oil in here. I like to use vegetable oils for mine. Just enough right there. And so actually I'm going to take a little bit of this out. I don't want to use too much of it because I want to I want you to think about this as like if you're making hash browns. Okay, that's what we're looking at. We want to make it to like if you're making hash browns, okay? So you want a nice layer, small layer, thin layer of oil here, not too much. Now, I do have some on the side here, so if I need to add more, then I will add more as time goes. All right, and the first thing you want to do is make sure that our pan is nice and hot so it doesn't stick. But you don't want it too hot. You don't want it too smoking hot. If you have it too smoking hot, then you're just gonna burn it. Because they're gonna cook really, really fast. Okay. What we're looking for is that nice golden brown look. Okay. Nice golden brown. It's kind of like how we eat with our eyes. We see something and we come up from the kitchen, from a restaurant, and a nice and golden brown. We're making something in that nice golden brown look, whether it's like a grilled cheese or whatever it is. We eat with our eyes. So think about that when you cook things, especially when you're making this dish. So for this one, Eric, what we're going to do for this one is, for this induction burner, we have 2 different ways of how you can use the heat, okay? There's a number setting, and there's also a temperature setting. Now, if I was to deep fry this here, and like if I was to deep fry this, like when I made my vegan fried chicken, then I would want a certain setting, like, 325, something like that, 275. And I can use this to set it at that temperature and keep it at that temperature if I'm deep frying things. But as we're sauteing this, we're going to use a number system. So kind of think of that as like if you're looking at a recipe and the recipe says to saute on medium high or medium low heat. For this one, I'm going to start off at probably like about medium low heat, just to start off with. And if I need to build it up a little bit more, then I'll build it up. And so there's a number setting on here, and this goes up from 1 up to 10. So, and I'll give you a quick cheat sheet for this. So on a number setting, when you go from 1 to 2 is low heat. 3 to 4 is medium low. 5 to 6 is medium. 7 to 8 is medium high. And anything higher than that, 9 to 10 is high heat. And so, and you can find these things online as well too. So I'm gonna go to medium low, and what I'm looking for here is I'm going to medium low heat, but that's a very good question because a lot of people don't know that, especially when you're working with these induction burners. And depending on which ones you have, some of them don't have just the temperature where you can set the temperature. Some of them just have the number system. And And so it's really good to know that. But again, if you do not know that, if you're trying to figure that out, you can always find the information online. That's how I found the information. And so right now I'm going to put it on medium low. So I'm going to go about 2.5 right now. Okay. And there's two different ways you can do this. You can use a small ice cream scoop that you can use as well to if you want to get the same amount each time. But if you just like, you know what, I don't really care. I'm gonna have some large ones, some small ones. I got kids coming over, so maybe they need some small ones. That's totally fine. But if you're really, really adamant about, make sure that you use that you have the right amount for each size, then I suggest you get yourself an ice cream scooper because then you can guarantee that you're going to get the same amount in each fritter. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use my spoon. Okay. The reason why I'm going to use my spoon as well too is what I like to do is, first of all, one thing I want to do is I'm going to add a little one to it to see where I'm at. So that lets me know too is also too well. One thing I look for is that sizzle. Okay. I like my pan to let me know that it's ready to be cooked on. So, for example, if I add that to it right now and I didn't hear that sizzle, then lets me know that my pan is not hot enough yet. Okay, so I mean, I need to bring the heat up a little bit. So let's go to I'm looking 2.5. I'm gonna go to like 3 right now, and let's try it again after a couple seconds. And the thing about I love about these is they get hot really, really fast. Okay, you don't have to sit there and wait for a long time for that stuff to get hot. All right. And then also make sure you're prepared as well too. So make sure you have a nice little plate to the side with some paper towel, or if you have a cooling rack, so you can get all that excess oil off. But I like using a paper towel on the side just to make sure I get all that excess oil off. Okay. You're gonna be working in batches. So that's why I really like making sure that I have that ready to go. All right. Let's see here. So go ahead. There we go. See, and then what I like to do as well is I like to just give like a nice little spread out, okay, evenly. Nice little thin layer like so. And I'm gonna do another one. Make sure I get that oil distributor all the way around because I want nice golden edges on here. Get this little baby boy out of here. And also too, you want to make sure that it's nice and hot as well too, because you want to make sure that it doesn't stick. Okay. And so usually when I'm making these, what I like to do is I like to make sure that I let it sit. Okay, so I don't want it too hot, but I want to make sure that it sticks. And I'm not going to have it too hot because I don't want it to cook. I don't want it to cook too fast because I don't want to burn it. But also too, I want to make sure that I get a nice little crust on there. So as I add those on here, oh, that smells so good. You can smell that corn, you can smell all the garlic in there, all that cumin. Smells so good. But I'm going to let this, again, I'm going to let this sit and I want to let that crust on the bottom, develop. That way I don't have to worry about it, sticking at the end of the day. It's going to create that nice little crust. But you also want to make sure you keep an eye on it. Okay. So I'm going to let that cook for a minute. I usually like to let it go for about good 3 minutes or so, depending on the heat that you have it at. The heat that I have it at right now, I think 2 minutes is fine just to check it, just to make sure that it doesn't stick. And then I'll go ahead and just kind of like run my spatula underneath to kind of like just release it from the pan. And then go from there. All right, so now that that's going right now too, then what I'm going to do from there is now what I'm going to do is I got a couple of side things that I like to do, okay, for this dish. We have our zesty sauce. We have our zesty sauce that we have in the refrigerator right now too. But I also love black beans with this as well. So what I'm going to do is I got myself some black beans that I have on the side that I'm going to use. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flavor this bad boy up, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself a nice onion. And I'm just gonna go ahead and just dice this up, okay? Nice dices in that. Okay. I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna use this later on or something, guaranteed. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just gonna go ahead and add that to my pot. I'm also gonna put my beans in. I got my onions in there. Also what I'm gonna do is I wanna add some garlic in there as well too. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing I did before, is mix up some garlic. But you can go ahead and the recipe says just add some black beans in there, but you know, you can easily just go ahead and add some black beans into the dish and everything on the side. But you know, I like to flavor my stuff up, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add that garlic in there as well. I'm gonna put that to the side right now. All right, now I'm gonna come back and bring our fritters back and see how we're looking. Let's see here. Gotta be very, very careful. Boom. Okay, it's looking good. I'm going ahead. Let's go bring that heat up a little bit more, shall we? I think we need to bring that heat up a little bit more. Yeah, gonna bring that up. So we're gonna bring that. I'm gonna bring that up to about a medium heat. It seems like our pan is not hot enough. So especially when you're dealing with stainless steel, then that's what you want to make sure that your pan is nice and hot for that. Also, too, you want to make sure too that you give it enough time to cook so that batter is cooked thoroughly all throughout. Okay, that's why you want to make sure you give it some time in order to cook. You don't want to cook it too fast because then what you end up is you're going to end up with some nice golden brown outside of your fritter, but the inside is going to be still doughy. Okay, and we don't want that. So we want to make sure that we give it enough time to really cook. Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is like when in the restaurants, that's why we also work, we all work with really, really hot pans. It's because we want to make sure, especially when we're dealing with stainless steel pans, because they're not nonstick pans. So with the nonstick pan, the Teflon pans, you don't have to worry about that because they already do the work for you. But for these pans, which are really high quality pans or cast iron pans, you want to make sure that that pan is nice and hot. Okay. One indication that I like to use, especially when I'm sauteing or I'm doing stuff like this, one indication that lets me know that my pan is hot enough is when I see a little bit of smoke coming from my pan. Okay, I add a little oil in there and I see a little bit of smoke coming from my pan. Now I'm not saying engulfing smoke, but you know, just a little sliver of smoke coming from your pan. That's what you want to look for. Okay, that lets you know that your pan is ready to go, especially if you're not, again, like if you're not using a lot of oil. That really, really helps with making sure that things do not stick because people go through it. You know, people go through it a lot. I went through it a lot. I still go through it as a chef. I still go through it, you know, but it's really important, especially like when you're dealing with stuff like this. You want to make sure that, you know, that the pan is really nice and hot. You know, I call it my Rice Krispie treat theory. You know, it's like, you know, when you pour the milk into the Rice Krispie treat and it starts talking to you. That's your pan talking to you, letting you know that, hey, I'm ready to be cooked on. That's your food, that's your food letting you know that, hey, me and this pan, we're coming together and we're working it out together. Okay. So thank you for making sure the pan is hot for me so I don't stick and that I keep my form. Let's see here. I'm gonna give it another little flip. But yeah, it's really, really important that we make sure that the pan is nice and hot. But again, like I said before, you don't want it too hot, you guys. You don't want it too hot, because if you have it too hot, then you're gonna get that burntness on the outside and not gonna be fully cooked on the inside. Find this little buddy over here. So you can tell when a fritter is cooked through as it expands, you can tell that it's cooked through. So usually what I could do is, it's kind of like, think of it like a pancake, right? If you're cooking a pancake and you start cooking it on one side, you start to see like, the batter starts to kind of like dry out, kind of like halfway up. So after you let it dry out halfway up, then you want to flip it over and then do the other side. That's how you can guarantee that the fritter is ready to, the fritter is completely done. Now, there's other ways too you can do it as well too. Usually, like when you're dealing with like baking powder, you add baking powder and stuff like that as well too. Then it helps a lot too, because then it helps it like kind of like expands out. But if you're not using any of that stuff and you're just using these different just these ingredients, then that's how you can tell. Now, say for example, if you were not sauteing, if you wanted to deep fry it, right? If you did want to deep fry it, what you can do is you can add a little baking powder to there, and just take out like a spoonful and drop it in there. And then what happens is they'll start floating to the top. And that's another way you can kind of tell. But again, so I'm gonna again after taking those off, I'm gonna give it a little minute or so, maybe like 30 seconds or so, to kind of like heat back up again, because you gotta realize too, as you add things to your pan, it starts to cool your pan down. Say for example, if I'm sauteing mushroom, right, and I go ahead and I add my mushroom to my pan, that's gonna bring the temperature down, the temperature of my pan down a lot. Okay, and so once I take those off, I'm gonna bring it back up again, so I can make sure that when I'm going on with my next batch, that that the temperature that I need it to be, so it doesn't stick. And then I use the same indication again. I kind of go in, I take a look and see if I see a little bit of smoke. Once I start seeing a little bit of smoke on there, then I know I'm ready to go. And even if you start seeing a little smoke, and sometimes like it may be a little bit too hot, what you can do is once you put that on here, once you put your batter on here, then what you can do is then you can turn down the heat. That's one thing about having control, is knowing how to control these things, is when you start seeing that extra little heat on there, then what you can do is go ahead and then turn it down just to make sure that it cooks through. All right, so I'm gonna do about 3 more, and then we're gonna move over to our beans and start picking things up, because I'm gonna run out of time. Okay. Let's see here. All right, perfect. Yep, I see that smoke moving right now. Just a little bit. Go ahead. There's that sizzle that I'm looking for. Go ahead and spread that out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that I distribute some oil on there too, because that's gonna help as well. Beautiful. Beautiful. Just like so. And let those go. All right. Delicious. One thing about these two is like they have that softness in the middle, but it has that crunchiness on the outside. That's how you know you got a really good fritter. You have that crunchiness on the outside, and you have that softness, on the inside. So again, I put that down. I'm going to bring it down a little bit, down to about maybe right in between. Exactly. That's one thing I love it, and like you don't have to wait for the temperature to turn down. you have a, and that's one thing I tell people why I love using this, you know, when I'm cooking, is because I have a lot more control. You know, I have a lot more control when it comes to cooking and when it comes to temperature, because you know, temperature is everything. So as you can see right now, this how it just really made it so much easier for me to just go ahead and lift that up. So sometimes I said sometimes that's easy, that's what you want to do as well too, is you want to go ahead and kind of like separate that from the pan. So I'm gonna go ahead and do is go ahead and flip that over real quick. And now that I have it on a nice low heat, I'm gonna let that cook, okay? All right, and get that other side. All right, now that's frying. I'm gonna get the rest of my stuff ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my plate because I love when it comes to plating. I like to find like little random plates. I'm really big on garage sales. I'm really big, especially in the area that I live at. You know, sometimes you see a lot of people, they just throw things out on the side. And I'm that person that I'm just like, my radar goes off. I think I get it from my mom that she used to do, and I used to ignore me as a kid, but all of a sudden I think it's in my genes now. So I see it and I go look and I'm like, oh, these are some nice plates, right? Nice designs, really good for plating up appetizers, things like that. So I always go look for stuff like that. Thrift stores, everything like that. You'll find a lot of antique, a lot of old school design type of plates. If you see them and they're super cheap, maybe $1 or so, grab them. You'll never know when you need to use them, okay? All right, so I'm gonna get that out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my sauce out. Let's see where we're at with these ones here. And you'll be surprised, guys. You'll be surprised how long it takes for these to really cook up, okay? It doesn't take that long for these things to cook up at all. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna take these and I'm gonna go ahead and just place those to the side for right now. Wait for the other one to get done. And then get a nice little crust on that too. Also, one other thing I love to do too is once I get both sides kind of like nice and golden brown, then I like to turn up the heat to get that extra like little crust on there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add my sauce. Beautiful. This is also good too for if you like nice creamy dressing. You also use that as well. Working on this side. Beautiful. That's another reason why I like to thin them out too, is because it makes the cooking process a lot faster. If I was to go ahead and drop dollops on here, you know, then what's going to happen is it's going to take a lot longer for my fritter to cook through. I'm going to show you, we got about 10 minutes, like a little less than, a little over 10 minutes left. I want to show you why I really love this thing here, okay? So going back to my beans and everything, what I like to do is like to go ahead. I'm just going to show you real quick. I'm going to go ahead and throw my black beans in here with the onion and that garlic. I'm going to add a little bit of cumin to here as well. And I'm going to bring this back and we're going to bring this to a boil and let all that flavor get involved in there, okay? All right, let's see how we're looking over here. Beautiful. Oh, that's what I'm looking for right there. That's what I'm looking for. The stubborn one. I'm gonna let that finish off. Then we're gonna finish our beans and go ahead and plate up. That's the magic of making sure that you have a nice hot pan. Is when you that's the what brand of pan I'm using. So right now I'm using a cast iron. I mean I'm using stainless steel pan. This is Optio. It's like Optio cookware. I would say this is like a 11-inch. This is like a 11-inch pan. It's not that heavy. Uh, Honestly, I would say invest in stainless steel. Invest in stainless steel. They last a lot longer. You know, especially with especially when working with these cooktops. And also too, I cannot say it enough too. Just like I said about going to thrift stores and finding like these plates and everything. Do the same thing for cast iron skillets, okay? Cast irons. If you know about cast irons, you know that cast irons last forever. Okay. If I have a cast iron that I use. It's actually my grandmother's cast iron, and I've been using that for a long, long time. You know, since she's passed, and so like I'll have that for the rest of my life. I know I will. And sometimes you can find it too. You know, you go to a lot of farmers markets. We have guys who have cast irons there, or you go to a flea market. Go to a flea market. You'll find cast irons all day. Okay, but they're really good for induction. Okay, really, really good. They're really, really good too when it comes to dealing with temperature. Okay, so now just real quick, I have my beans here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna blast this at 10. Okay, I'm gonna put this on high heat. Won't you see how fast these things come to a boil? What I did was I went ahead and I just added this. I just added just enough water to just cover up my beans. That's it. Okay, I just add enough to cover up my beans. That's all I want. I'm gonna go ahead and just mix that all in, just make sure everything is distributed. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of cumin in there as well. Probably gonna do like maybe we'll do about a half of a teaspoon of ground cumin. Perfect. All I need. I can already see it start to react already. And I just added some water to here. I don't need to add anything else. You know, maybe I'll just add a little bit of salt. Just to enhance those flavors, right? Just a little bit, not too much. Doing one more little pinch. Mix that in. And usually when you have something like this, you know, you'll be sitting there for a long time, man, just waiting for this thing to come to a boil. I love this. I can pop this on 10 and in less than 2 minutes, even sometimes less than that, maybe a minute, and I'm already at a boil. I already see it already working right now. All right, move all this stuff to the side. Push this up a little bit. And I'm gonna go add something to grab some of that out of it. Look, I just stepped away for a minute, come back, we're almost at a boil. Now, if you really want to get some good flavor out of here, what you really want to do is you want to bring this to a boil, bring it to a nice hard boil, and then bring it to a simmer. So I have it at 10, as you can see right now. Then I'll bring it down. Okay, but I can already smell it. I'm gonna bring that down because what I want is I want those onions to kind of nice and soften up, and then with that garlic and everything too. So I'll bring that to like a nice little simmer. So let's see this. Let's go ahead and let that cook up. Mixed in, bring it to a boil already. Look how fast it comes to a boil. Then from there, I'm going to bring it down to a simmer. So let's bring it down halfway to about medium heat, to about 5 right now, and just let that simmer. It won't take long. Beautiful. Now, usually sometimes what I like to do too is sometimes I like to just really go ahead and take some fresh, some actually what I did was I just added water. I just added water because I want that flavor. I really want that flavor of that onion, I want the flavor of that garlic and that cumin to really come out of my beans. So usually what I do if I take a can of beans, what I like to do is I like to dump them out and rinse them off, rinse some of that liquid out of the beans, the liquid that it comes in, and then just use the water for that. We can also use veggie stock as well too. But if I'm adding things to it like the onion and garlic and everything, then I go ahead. Especially it's less of a mess too, because if I'm going to be adding to my plating here, I want to make sure that it doesn't turn my fritters black and things like that too. So that's why I just kind of sometimes just add water and I just season it. Add that cumin in there. If you don't have garlic, you can use onion powder. You can use garlic powder. You can use some paprika in there. You can use some chili powder. Definitely use cumin and then add a little bit of salt, and then you're good to go. But I like using fresh onions. Sometimes what I like to do is sometimes I like to saute my onion and the garlic first, and then add my beans in my water to give them more of more of a more in-depth flavor. But it's kind of like up to you. Let's see how we're looking here. And also what I can do with this too. So say for example, if you're not a big fan of whole beans, what you can do too is after you let that come to a simmer, you can go ahead and you can blend this up and make yourself some and then make yourself some like a nice little refried beans as well. After you blend those up, add them back to the pan and cook them a little bit more. You do some refried beans as well too. Really, really good. Really, really simple. These are some great questions, Eric. Thank you so much. Now, as far as your batter goes, you guys, say for example, if you do have a lot of batter left over, what you can do is you can add this, get yourself a nice Ziploc bag, you can freeze this, okay, and then use it again. But you want to make sure you use it within by the end of the week, okay? Or if you do want to put it in the refrigerator, make sure you use that by the end of the week. It probably it can definitely last about 2 weeks if you freeze it, but you want to make sure that you freeze that, okay? If you do not freeze it, you put it in the refrigerator. You got to use that before the end of the week, okay? You got about a good 4 or 5 days. But I would suggest you go to 4 days. Or what you can do as well is you can go ahead and cook those off and then freeze them. And that's a little bit longer. All right. Looks like my water is almost absorbed here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and blend this up real quick, and then we're going to finish that off. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn that off. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and just kind of give us a nice little blend up. I want to make sure I have some space to do that, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself in my bowl, like so. Go ahead and add that to your bowl, so then it gives me enough surface to work with. So, one second, I got you. What you can do is, so what I suggest you do if you were to do that then make sure that you don't cook them too long to where they start really browning up. Then what you can do is you can just refry them right back up again. To warm them to crisp them back up again. But just again, don't use too much oil. Just get like a nice little layer of oil like we did today and everything. Because like you said, they will get a bit soggy. So what you can do is just crisp them up by adding a little oil to your pan again, and just getting them nice and crisp. And they'll heat up really fast in that sense too. You can see, blend all that up again. Give it a little taste test. And if you want them to be a little bit more thicker, then what I suggest you could do is add them to a pan and just let them cook a little bit more, and they'll blend up and they'll thin out. They'll thicken up a lot more. That's beautiful flavor. Okay, I love that. That's delicious. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this. And actually, you can use this as well too to dip it in as well too for a sauce. And there you have it. You have your zucchini corn fritters. And again, you can cook these and then save them for later if you want to. It's all up to you. All right. And thank you guys. This is perfect. Get the sweetness of that corn. Meshes well. The zestiness. And also too, one thing I have to tell you guys too, make sure that one thing you must make sure you do, once you bring those out of the pan, add less, earlier I added too much salt in there, add a little salt to them when they come out of the pan, because it goes a long way. And just a little bit, and get a nice balance. Thank you, Eric. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, Chef Kelvin. It looks like really good. I'll have to try it later.
Absolutely.
But thank you, everybody, for coming to the induction cooking class. This is unfortunately our last cooking class, but you can find other recipes on our YouTube channel. And we created a whole playlist for these cooking class videos. And then we also have in the future a cookbook coming out with Chef Kelvin. So stay tuned.
Be on the lookout, you guys.